Farmweek is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farmweek, find out if U.S. Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack will serve another term.
The Food and Drug Administration is expanding into regulating vegetable production on farms.
In Southern Gardening, the rice paper plant. It has huge leaves and it gives your garden a tropical flair.
In the markets, developments in China help support cotton prices here in the U.S. as the grain markets see a rally in the wake of the latest supply and demand numbers.
In the feature segment, see how a feeder cattle sale is helping Mississippi cattlemen to work together to make more money. The Homeplace Feeder Cattle Sale helps cattlemen to make up truckload lots of quality feeder cattle.
The first year, I figured I made $43 extra when I looked at the commission and the shrink. The next year, we ended up with $83 extra per animal. And then last year, we had $111.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
A lot of the cabinet secretaries from President Obama's first term are leaving, but one who was thought to be leaving is staying.
Well, Leighton, U.S. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack told the American Farm Bureau Convention earlier this week that he will remain for Mr. Obama's second term. The 62-year-old Vilsack is a past governor of Iowa. Many times cabinet secretaries don't serve a second term because of the daily grind or they've lost the president's confidence. There was a rumor floated after Mr. Obama's election that Kent Conrad, the retiring senator from North Dakota, would replace Vilsack as Ag Secretary. That rumor seemed to die away about as fast as it sprang up. If Vilsack serves until 2017, he will be the first Ag Secretary in 40 years to serve 2 full terms. Orville Freeman, who served as Ag Secretary for Presidents Kennedy and Johnson in the 1960s, is the last one to do this. The U.S. Department of Agriculture has the 3rd largest budget after the Departments of Defense and Health and Human Services.
The way the United States handles food safety on farms and processing plants is set to change. The Food and Drug Administration released its proposals late last week, which will allow it to regulate the growth of many fresh vegetables. Market to Markets, Mike Pearson reports.
The Food and Drug Administration proposed 2 new food safety rules it hopes will help prevent foodborne illness. The proposed rules implement the landmark Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, signed into law 2 years ago by President Obama. While the FDA believes the guidelines would be more precautionary than reactionary, the proposal reflects some of the most sweeping reform in food safety rules in decades. The FDA wants farmers to ensure that workers' hands are washed, irrigation water is clean, and animals are kept out of fields. Food processors and manufacturers also have new requirements that include submitting food safety plans for preventing foodborne illness and new guidelines designed to keep operations clean.
If the cantaloupe in your refrigerator has this label on it, that's the Jensen Farms label. Throw it out.
In a 2011 outbreak of listeria in cantaloupe that claimed 33 lives, for example, the FDA inspectors found pools of dirty water on the floor and old, dirty processing equipment at Jensen Farms in Colorado where the cantaloupes were grown. Under the new rules, companies would have to identify steps they are taking to correct problems and monitor their own progress in reports to the FDA. For the first time, FDA would be authorized to regulate foods on farms. The agency is hoping to calm producers' fears by tailoring rules only to certain fruits and vegetables that pose the greatest risk because they are generally eaten raw. The Grocery Manufacturers Association said in a statement, FSMA's implementation effort can serve as a role model for what can be achieved when the private and public sectors work together to achieve a common goal. The FDA would also be looking to ensure imported produce follows the same rules as domestic operations. The Center for Science in the Public Interest, a longtime critic of the FDA, said these proposed regulations are a sign of progress that should be welcomed by consumers and the food industry alike. Still needed are protections in the form of rules aimed at ensuring the safety of imported food, also mandated by FSMA and long overdue. The new regulations could cost businesses close to $500 million a year to implement, but are expected to reduce the estimated 3,000 deaths a year from foodborne illness.
Have you ever seen a plant with leaves as large as basketballs? Well, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman tells us about the rice paper plant.
One of the easiest ways to add a tropical flair to any landscape is to use plants with large leaves. Rice paper plant is a favorite of mine that looks amazing. Rice paper plant is a native of southern China and Taiwan and is known botanically as Tetrapanax papyrifera. It's the foliage that really creates interest, with huge leaves that can be up to 15 inches across. The leaves have 5 to 11 coarse lobes. The undersides of the younger leaves have a dense white felt-like pubescence. The fan-like leaves are attached by very long petioles to the upright stems, and the flowers are produced in the fall. The conspicuous flower panicles can be 3 feet long and greater than 3 feet wide. These panicles are displayed above the foliage, and the flowers are ball-shaped and covered in the dense pubescence. Rice paper plant readily spreads by underground roots called rhizomes, with new plants springing up at various points along these rhizomes. It's not uncommon for new plants to pop up 20 feet away from the original plant, and any unwanted plants, like these in the lawn, can simply be pruned off. The name rice paper plant refers to the use of the interior of the stem, called pith, to make a form of rice paper. In Mississippi, rice paper plant will die back in the winter and should be treated like many of our other perennial plants. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Once again, Gary says that the rice paper plant will spread by its roots, so you don't want to necessarily plant it near any defenseless plants. Might take over. In the feature segment today, a feeder cattle sale without the animals. The Homeplace Feeder Cattle Sale, held annually in Hattiesburg, is helping Mississippi cattlemen to earn more money. And it's snowing in Mississippi. For those of you in other parts of the country that are watching us or whatever, yeah, we enjoy it. We don't see it very much. But not a bad little snow for us here in east central and southeast Mississippi. Jackson area got snow. So.
As my wife said, the trees look like a calendar photograph with all the snow.
Hey, we don't ever see it, so it looks pretty to us.
Yeah.
All right, time now for the markets with Leighton, and we have some news that's helping support cotton prices.
That's right. Apparently, cotton traders are not quite so intimidated now by China's big stockpile of cotton. We'll explain that in a moment. Also ahead this week, corn prices hit 3-month highs. Analysts think the feeder cattle supply is going to be rather short, while hog production is getting a little larger according to the latest Hogs and Pigs report. The monthly numbers from the USDA 1 week ago were a market mover as far as the grain sector. Extension Ag economist John Michael Riley has been looking over the information about corn and soybeans. He gave me some analysis of those particular sectors midday on Thursday. So John Michael, what were your initial reactions to those new reports?
Well, especially with corn, the first thing that comes to mind is bullish, just given the fact that ending stocks were lower than expected. You go to the grain stocks report, which is an inventory number from December 1st, and it was lower than expected. So overall, in terms of the news for corn, definitely bullish. We saw the market react accordingly and has been up since the release of the report. For soybeans, fairly neutral. You know, there were a few bullish aspects, there were a few bearish aspects in the report, in those two reports. But for the most part, if you look at where soybean prices on the futures market have been since the report release, it looks like it's really riding the coattails of corn and wheat, because those two have been higher and soybeans just kind of getting pulled up with it, even though the report was mostly wishy-washy in terms of what the numbers were reported.
So as far as corn and down the road here as we approach planting season, are we expecting the prices to keep this uptrend, or at least? Well,
I wouldn't be surprised if that, I don't know if so much an uptrend that this news has been absorbed. I think, you know, depending on what comes out of Brazil and Argentina moving forward, what we see in terms of exports, the corn export number was dropped quite a bit. We've seen that in the weekly reports. I think that was pretty much expected, but it really depends on if we can continue to get some sales at these trending higher prices. Right now, the soybean to corn ratio, which is a good indicator of how these crops might play out in terms of acres, is really favoring corn. So we'll see if soybeans try to buy back some acres as we move closer to planting time.
And as far as soybeans, that sales picture, exports, China is still in the picture there, right?
That's right. Exports for soybeans were steady and have been moving pretty decent for the past couple of weeks. Corn was the one that really took the hit there.
Early in this week, buyers reportedly rejected cotton from China's state auctions over some concerns about that fiber's quality and price. Jack Scoville of Futures magazine says this development turned futures higher. He thinks the implication long-term is that demand for cotton will remain strong as the threat of China selling off its government stockpile becomes somewhat less intimidating to the market. And analyst Alan Brugler says China will be more likely now to continue importing some cotton despite their own import fees and taxes on the fiber. Our trivia quiz this week deals with the 2012 crop production in the state of Mississippi. Here's the question. Mississippi peanuts and soybeans each recorded record yields in 2012. What other crop grown in the state also had record yields last year? Is the answer cotton, or grain sorghum, or corn, or sweet potatoes? You'll find out more here in a few minutes.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Spann reports that corn prices are driving the feeder cattle market. In the feature segment today, see how the August Homeplace Sale in South Mississippi is making more money for Mississippi's cow-calf producers.
Each year, many Mississippians are seriously injured or killed in farm tractor accidents. Transporting and lifting objects with a front loader requires extreme caution. Unsecured objects can roll or slide down the loader arms and injure the driver. To help prevent injuries, tractors should be equipped with a falling objects protection system. Always secure loads or use a bale spear or straps before lifting objects. A message from the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The Mississippi Peanut Growers Association's meeting and trade show takes place at the Lake Terrace Convention Center at Hattiesburg. That's Tuesday afternoon and Wednesday, January 29th and 30th. Peanut specialists from several southern universities will be on hand, as well as more than 30 commercial exhibitors. Wednesday's lunch is free, and $20,000 in door prizes will be given away. Mississippi Market Ready training is Wednesday, February 13th. The location is the Boss Building on campus at Mississippi State University in Starkville. Hours are 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. If you're interested in selling directly to restaurants and other outlets, Market Ready will help get you started, find out how to build relationships, and how to figure out your selling price. There is no registration fee. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
We move into the livestock markets now, and the story since those new USDA reports January 11th is, as the graphic over my shoulder says, all about corn. Analyst Don Roos says that in the beef sector, corn may pressure feeder prices if dry weather issues remain a factor in many areas of the country later this year.
All of this livestock market is about the grain market, even the cattle market, but feeders, same thing. And the feeder cattle supply, no doubt, is going to be short, but it's up to the corn market. If the corn market would happen to move up sharply on some dry weather concerns, because we're still very tight supplies, you know, the feeder market will come under pressure. But I think as we move forward, and if we can alleviate the tight situation on old crop corn, get to our in-between months, September and into new crop, you know, the feeder cattle market probably is going to find some strength again. So, you know, the feeder cattle market struggled down around 140, 145 on high-priced grain. It probably could go back up to 160, 65.
Meanwhile, in the hog sector, there are new indications the nation's pork supply is a little bigger these days. Analyst Alan Brugler says the export picture will be what dictates whether pork products are an alternative to beef at the meat counter for price-conscious consumers.
As we know from the Hogs and Pigs report, pork production is actually a little larger than we had originally thought it might be. I got some upward revisions to the summer numbers, and farrowing intentions were a little larger for the December-Jan-Feb period. So I think we do have a little bit more pork supply there. So yeah, probably we get a little more domestic consumption. But the real story in pork is exports. You know, if we're exporting 22, 23, 24% of our production, that has a major impact on what the consumer price will be and how much is available for the consumer.
The covering of snow across parts of Mississippi late this week might give you the impression there's been plenty of that white stuff all over the country this season. Actually, just the opposite is true. Some specialists are calling it a snow drought. In fact, only 22% of the United States was covered by snow as of last week. That is the smallest percentage in 6 years for this time of year. Scientists are concerned it implies additional drought-like conditions for some regions of the United States as this year progresses. Before this week's feature story, the trivia answer is next. And C is the correct choice. Corn joined peanuts and soybeans in setting record yields in Mississippi in 2012. Last August, more than 2,000 calves were sold in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, but not one entered the sale ring. The annual Homeplace Producer Sale is a video sale sponsored by the Mississippi State University Extension Service in cooperation with several organizations. Cattle producers as well as cattle buyers say this auction is always advantageous to them. It's also beneficial to the cattle being sold. This story first aired on Farmweek last July prior to the August sale. When it comes to marketing cattle, being able to sell in 50,000-pound load lots or in uniform groups puts the most money back in a producer's pocket. But it's not practical for most Mississippi farmers to do on their own.
The main thing is, you know, very few cattlemen in the state have the ability to put together a truckload of calves by themselves.
That's why the Extension Service partnered with Farm Bureau, the Beef Cattle Improvement Association, and the Cattlemen's Association to create another marketing option, the Mississippi Homeplace Producer Sale.
If you don't have a partner, if you've got 20 or 30, 40 calves you need to sell, you can contact John Kilgore, Mike Keene, any of the extension guys or Farm Bureau, and they will work with you to find somebody that your calves match up with. You don't necessarily have to find it yourself.
Yeah, the agents work with the producers in their particular counties, or the area agents work with producers maybe spread over several counties and try to put the cattle together that are the like kind and quality and muscle and type and to make a 50,000-pound load.
In Johnny Thompson's case, he partnered with another Neshoba County producer, Shelby Beeson. Together, they formed a uniform load of cattle for the 2011 Homeplace Producer Sale.
Me and Johnny, in this instance, we have to work together to run the same type bulls, calf in a shorter window of time, and to try to get as uniform a calf as we can. And then when we wean and precondition, we try to do it alike and do it at the same time, so that the cattle will be as close to have the same health protocol. We commingled them at weaning. Johnny has a better facility here for mixing feed and feeding it.
So by being able to commingle your calves and put them in the sale, it allows the smaller producers to be able to take advantage of the price advantage of being able to sell in the truckload sales.
Consignments to the Homeplace sale are usually due in June each year. The actual auction occurs each August at Southeast Mississippi Livestock in Hattiesburg, and the event is managed as a board sale. Unlike traditional livestock auctions, there are no cattle moving across the floor of the sale barn. The cattle are still on their home farms. Buyers are looking at livestock on video screens on the wall and placing their bids. The auction is also streamed live on the internet by the Extension Service. The video of each lot was available to view before the sale on an internet website, along with a written description of the cattle. This type of sale is attractive to buyers because it is a much more efficient way to do business and saves them lots of time.
And those buyers, we're going to sit there and sell 30 to 40 truckloads of calves in an hour or hour and a half, where normally it would take them weeks to put those cattle together out at the sale barns, buying them one at a time. So it's a big time saving for them.
The fact that cattle are not actually on site for the auction makes things easier for the stockyard, which adds to the price advantage the Homeplace sale can offer to producers.
Well, we are able to sell the cattle at a discount commission for them. There's less handling and labor involved in the board sale cattle, which a lot of them shipped off the farm, and a lot of our help is not involved. That enables us to sell them a little cheaper for them, which puts a little more money back in their pocket.
If you go to the local sale, they're going to charge you about a 5.5% commission, yardage, insurance. You know, they have to make money to stay in business. With our Homeplace sale, we take a flat 2% commission. That's what the sale barn at Hattiesburg gets, is 2% to handle all the transactions.
Cattleman Jacob McGehee of Macon has sold livestock in every one of the Homeplace sales. The 2011 auction was the fourth one in the history of the event. McGehee vividly remembers his involvement in the very first one.
Our first sale, I didn't have a complete load. I commingled with the Prairie Experiment Station and Mike Howell, and we put together a load, and we loaded out up at our Prairie Experiment Station. But that made a believer of me.
McGehee says he likes to put together a load of steers all the same color, with 100 pounds or less variation from lightest to heaviest. In 2011, his big steers averaged 886 pounds. The Macon farmer says each year of the Homeplace sale, he makes a little more money per head.
The first year, I figured I made $43 extra when I looked at the commission and the shrink. The next year, we ended up with $83 extra per animal. And then last year, we had $111.
Johnny Thompson and Shelby Beeson of Philadelphia also feel like the Homeplace producer sale is a worthwhile option for marketing feeder cattle in Mississippi.
The way I figured it, the shrinks, commissions, and other things by putting together the truckload sales, I figure it's worth, 7 to 8 cents a pound for every pound we put in this sale versus, going to the local sale barn. And that amounts up on a 50,000 pound load of calves.
Well, it was just an alternative market to where I could add value to my cattle and be paid for what extra things that I've done. Preconditioning, giving them their vaccines, and then being able to combine them with other growers to have a truckload lot for a buyer to buy.
Since the cattle are not brought to the auction for the Homeplace sale, feeder calves that might not be ready to ship on a certain day can be accommodated due to the fact there's some flexibility in arranging future delivery. Some calves will be shipped from their home farm soon after the sale, and some calves will be shipped at an agreed upon later date, depending on target weights. These calves are being shipped from McGehee Cattle Company in Macon about 6 weeks after the sale. When the loadout date arrives, the Homeplace sale provides electronic scales on site at the loadout location, which are used as the cattle are being put into the truck. The entire process ensures accuracy, and buyers know they are getting top quality cattle that haven't experienced the stress and health challenges that come from mixing with other livestock in a public sale.
As long as the people are doing the hard work with the cattle and making them better and making them uniform, and Extension Service and Farm Bureau people work with us, this thing will just grow and grow, I think.
The 4th annual Homeplace Producer Sale in 2011 featured over 3,500 head of cattle in 43 loads. The sale generated over $2.8 million in total receipts.
We're getting a little more money for the cattle, but we're also reducing expenses. So we feel like our producers are putting a few positive dollars in their pocket, and with the high cost of all the other inputs that they in the cattle industry today, that's helping out.
From Hattiesburg, Mississippi, I'm Leighton Spann reporting. And go to our Farm Week website if you would like to see this story again, farmweek.msucares.com. You can also see it on YouTube and Facebook. We'll also have links and telephone numbers if you're interested in participating in this year's sale. And you can put this on your calendar. That sale will be on Monday, August 5th at 7 p.m. again at Southeast Livestock in Hattiesburg. Consignments, that date has not been set, but probably, given the past experience, probably due by the end of June. So put that on your calendar. A great program, and you need to contact your extension office for more information.
Thank you, Leighton. We are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, St. Bethany Fresh.
This brother and sister duo is operating a state-of-the-art greenhouse tomato operation in the Pontotoc area. It's computerized, and it also allows them to operate without using chemical insecticides.
In Southern Gardening, learn how to grow microgreens to enjoy some nutritious fresh salads this winter. We leave you today with some more in Mississippi snow scenes, courtesy of MSU's Dave Garraway. I'm Artis Ford.
I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.